Hello, everybody. It's International Women's Day today, the 8th of March, 2024.
Boo, 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 boo.
I'm so excited. And today I'm joined by two special individuals, Lebogang Thobakgale and Khanyisa Phika, my sisters in crime, but the good kind of crime, the crime that fights the enemies of diversity, the enemies of inclusion, all the walls that come up for any and every woman, and all the walls that come up that don't give women their space and place. And why you guys were so chosen for this thing, and I just thought you would be so perfect for it, was because you're just so feminine. And you don't need to hide that. We're all in financial services, and we'll just get in the details of where you guys fit in and where you work, and you must just tell us a bit about yourselves. But I just find that you bring your femininity in everything, and it's just so beautiful to watch because I feel like lots of the conversations that I have with young ladies, they feel like they need to act a certain way because of the microaggressions that they find at work. They need to be a certain way. They don't need to be themselves or ask questions at how a lady would ask a question because the men have sort of coached them around the right thing to say, and you can't speak like that, you can't sit like that, you must wear a suit, how dare you wear a dress to work, those kind of things. How dare you, a woman in a man's world? So that's why I thought you guys would be perfect for this conversation, and thank you for indulging me.
Thank you for having us.
So the theme is Inspire Inclusion. As you know, I just want to get, the moment I say that, what comes to mind for you, Lebogang?
Inspire inclusion.
Hi.
Hi.
I just had to get to the detail already without even thanking you. I think I'm very grateful that you really considered me for this conversation. When you say inspired inclusion, what comes into mind is just separate the two for a bit so that it can really be instilled. We're teaching
I love
here,
that.
and it's not just us, right?
Yeah.
We're teaching the men, we're teaching us, we're teaching people that actually don't understand what inspired inclusion is. So for me to inspire goes beyond just lip service. It goes beyond just saying, it goes beyond having conferences and just talking about it. Inspiring is an act. So you ought to do something to show that there's some form of inspiration.
Yeah.
Inclusion, if I were to talk about what inclusion is, let's rather talk about what is not inclusion. If I have authority to sit on a table and discuss women and discuss aspirations and discuss opportunities, and I don't include women, that is not inclusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's single out what inclusion is not to make sense of it. So to me, just to sum it up, acting in a way that adds women to the conversation and to the opportunity. That's what comes into mind.
Oh, love that. And you, Kanye? What's your take?
Inspire inclusion. I think it's best described with an analogy, right? So just imagine you are this rainbow nation that we are supposedly are. And you work with men, women, and you have different races. If you're sitting in a lunch table, you already know. And I have a good example from if it's Heritage Day, how feeling included would be I would come with my tribe and people would accept that as my traditional type of food, if that's the case, without them saying, oh, it smells funny. I can't try that. Who could even try to eat that? But, because also it's how I was brought up, and I think a lot of other Black people have been raised in an inclusive manner. You don't see the next person as competition. You don't see the next person as something that's not worth connecting with. And so we love everyone. We appreciate it, and we like to celebrate people that come into our spaces. But when we mix with other cultures, I find that inclusion is more than just saying I'm in the table. It's about accepting that I have this diversity And because of my diversity, in fact, you are curious enough to know about me, about how I think, and why I would think that way. And that would make me come into a space more authentic. And then obviously you're then inspired because when you feel included, it's beyond just feeling included. You're now feeling more like you belong. And I think as human beings, that's what we want, to a sense of belonging.
I love that. And I like what you say about if you care enough or if you think you are being inclusive, you are also going to then learn more about me because then you are really not trying to include me. You're just doing what's socially acceptable, right? I like that. And it segues nicely into my next question, which is, I know you are Thobakgale. I know you are an NEC member, but please just tell me more about yourself. So just do your accolades, read off your CV.
I feel like
because
I'm interviewed now
also
for a certain position. What position is this?
Because also part of inclusion is that studies have found that women don't necessarily talk about their qualifications and they don't necessarily come out in the crowd and say, oh, by the way, I have an MBA. Although they say, you know, how do you know someone has done an MBA? They'll tell you so.
Yeah.
But I find that men do that more than women. So you'll have to dig up a lot or you'll have to spend a lot of time with women to get to a certain level of safety almost.
Yeah.
And then that's when they tell you who they are. And I just think that's such an injustice because I think you bring your full self to work, right? It's good and well. I know that you have 2 kids or I know that you're married because I think that's, as women, we naturally gravitate towards those kind of conversations in any ways. But also, I want to know that you're the VP of credit risk.
Yeah.
I mean, and what does that entail? You know, because it sounds like, wow, what a powerful woman. So please indulge our audience and just tell us,
So,
because I know, tell us what you do at ABSIP as an NEC member and what your portfolio is, and then read out your bio and just tell us what you do as a real life superhero.
No, we'll certainly do. Thank you so much. So before I go to my bio, you spoke about, you know, how women, we don't want to come through at all. And this brings me to a conversation we once had with my dear friend the other time about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And that was around how this is more gravitating towards women for some reason. It's as though the definition was made for women for some reason. And it's not the case.
It's always the women that are always feeling like they don't belong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's because we're the ones that are actually taking it in. You know, you've got all these accolades, you don't want to show them. You've got all this knowledge, you don't want to show it. You show up in a room with a man, automatically it seems as though you're the subordinate and
you shrink.
You know what I mean? So anyway, when you said that, it just clicked. Oh my goodness, that word. Imposter
Here we go again.
I don't like it. I don't like it. You don't like it. No. I don't use that.
It doesn't define us.
It doesn't.
At all.
Not at all. But anyway, so I, as you said, I do head up the learning and development department at ABSIP at a national level. And hence I'm called part of the NEC. So it's not a political party.
I was about to ask.
Yeah, no. I get that a lot.
You registered to vote.
No. Well, but yeah, let's not go there, shall we? So I serve at ABSIP very earnestly, and I really enjoy that. It's more around, learning and development for me. It's not just focusing on the women, but it's about, all our professionals at large.
Absolutely. And you know what I do enjoy about this year's NEC, or rather the incoming NEC committee, is just how diverse and inclusive it looks like.
Absolutely.
So maybe tell us a bit about that and why there's magic there.
No, absolutely. Well, to start off with, there's
sorry, we haven't forgotten about your CV, hey? So you can tell us about it.
I promise you, I don't have imposter syndrome. I will certainly get there.
I believe you.
Thank you. So it's, to start with, it's young, quite young, and that's something that we need to flesh out. Usually at a board level, you're thinking, too experienced in terms of age. You ought to have, served in certain boards before you can actually be there. So it's very young. So that's the start. It's very inclusive in terms of how many young professionals it's brought in.
I love it. Yeah.
It's great. And obviously we are elected. So the election, I think it was quite intentional. And thanks for those that voted, because there's quite a number of Black women and very minimal Black men as
Yeah.
well, which is great. So we sit on a table. You really have your word there. Every single one is heard.
Yeah.
And you don't get to a point where you're like, it's a men's world or something, you know? So that, I think that we've set the scene, and there's great precedence, obviously, for the next upcoming after our tenure, obviously. So I think the fact that it is young more than anything, there's fresh mind, there's fresh skills as well,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. You can
Oh,
tell
is that why
enjoying
we've
it.
seen such amazing news and amazing events coming up?
Yes, yes,
Is
yes.
that the magic?
That's the magic.
Or the secret sauce?
There's a
Yeah.
lot of think tank around it. The young minds.
Good.
Leadership. We've got great, but we've got great leadership as well. I mean, we're learning a lot from the ones that were there
Yeah.
prior as well. Yeah. So it's brilliant.
And then in
My
your
bio.
capacity as financial what?
Yeah. That
Please tell us about that.
gets me into trouble every time I talk about it, right? So I'm a financial crime compliance expert.
Jeez.
And by that, I mean, I look after compliance within the financial crime space. Financial crime, looking at anti-money laundering, anti-bribery and corruption. There's
Bad guys.
the bad guys, the bad guys. Glad you said the bad guys and not,
Yeah.
politicals. So I'm actually glad you said bad guys instead. So it's counter-terrorism financing as well. So this is really the money that goes outside the country, inside. It's financing the bad guys as well. So I do compliance around there. So by profession, I'm an internal auditor, meaning I'm more risk and controls inclined, really. You give me anything, I ask you, what's the risk we're trying to curb and what control do you have? So I then have my honors in internal audit. So how I got to the financial crime space is when I started at a regulator. So I worked at a regulator,
Okay.
the FSCA, and that's where I really built my career around financial crime as a whole. Yeah. So I'm not really a bad person. I just look out for my country.
No, you're good. You're fair.
And we thank you for it, ma'am. And you, superhero?
Oh, my turn.
What is your superpowers? We know you are the vice chairperson at Women in Focus, which is the women's pillar at ABSIP National. So tell us more. What do you bring to the table? And then you must read out your bio. I don't want to repeat everything I've said, but you know.
Let me just summarize it this way. I have fallen in love with my name, Khanyisa. And in Tsonga, Khanyisa is an active verb. So when you say it, you have to light up. That's what it's supposed to
Hola.
do.
When you say it, you literally have a smile on your face.
That's what you bring. So I like to
Love that.
believe that I bring light in terms of insights in the work that I do, in terms of joy, in the relationships that I keep, and the endeavors that I, pursue. And so I'll tell you, I didn't become an economist because I had my mind set out and thinking that's what I'm going to do. It was really a story that I like to say, economics found me. And it's that boyfriend that won't let you go. Like, I don't think I want. But I found
I love
great
it.
opportunities in my economic field, and really some good favor, some real lessons as well, but definitely joyful. So I went and, enrolled for accounting in my undergrad. My first lecture was in economics, and I thought, oh, well, that's how things work. That's what I wanted to know. In fact, I used to do sciences in high school and used to annoy my mother with breaking stuff just to see if it will get fixed, and it never did. And so when I knew I didn't want to be a doctor, scientist, or any of that sort, but also I didn't know what I wanted to do. And my sister at that time was pursuing a CA. I was like, we don't need 2 CAs. We'll find out. Let's just go and find out. Let's go to varsity. And so I'm glad that I entered into the economics space, because now I work as macro and risk advisor in the financial sector. And
What is that? Just
So-
give us a snippet of your day to day.
I believe I'm a growth economist, right?
Mhm.
I love to give insight that will help businesses grow. I love that because then our economy grows and then we can see human progress. Of course, it's been a tough decade or so, but the whole point is to see growth. So when I worked, my first job was in government as a tax administrator, well, doing economics in the tax space. But that showed me how the economy works from the government side. And I got to learn that part. So when I went into investments, it was to see like when the wealth has been created through economic attainment and achievement, that's where savings investment goes. So that gave me that perspective.
Okay.
Now in risk, I'm looking at the back end because that's where the funding of industry, of businesses comes in. And so I manage the measurement of credit risk portfolio at a particular bank. And what that means is just making sure that the bank still makes money
Yeah.
with what it gives out, but also giving them opportunities because there's slow growth right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just say the economy is not growing, don't go, no one will pay you
And
back.
now doors are closed.
So you
business.
try and
Yeah.
find those insights. That's where the light comes in to say, actually, this sector or that type of initiative. Renewables were a big thing. We saw
Yeah.
financing that went in there.
ESG.
I think, right?
Mhm.
And climate financing now is also really big. So it's just finding those opportunities where, the financial sector can still participate in growing our economy in a different or in a challenging environment.
And this is why I asked you guys to talk about yourselves. Because, by just saying my name is Lebogang and I work as an FCC specialist, it just doesn't do justice to the amount of work that you do and how specialized that is. The reason I asked that and the reason why I sort of summarized it in that way, I just wanted to then find out from you that some people would then think that's more male dominated, or it sounds like a field where you'll get a lot of men and not necessarily get a lot of females. Is that true? Or do you think this is the kind of skill that sort of levels the playing field? So it makes inclusion even that much more possible.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, please?
So I think throughout the years, financial crime, we used to call it white collar crime back then. I think it really evolved into something greater and bigger than just having lawyers looking at it or, people with certain degrees looking at it, when you look at compliance, we used to envision, in fact, when I did my, I think I neglected to mention this, that I did my postgrad diploma in compliance management.
Oh, wow.
So when we were taught compliance, they actually said, they showed us a picture, I remember very well. So it showed us a picture and they said of a white man with a suit and a suitcase, briefcase. And they said, that's what a compliance officer looks like now.
Where?
Single male. Certainly.
First of all.
Yeah. So I think there has certainly been an evolution. And when it comes to the certain types of skills that you find a compliance in any field, financial crime compliance person having to attain now is more internal audit law, financial analysis as well. You need all those skills. And funny thing, we've got quite a number of females in this field. Yeah. We certainly do. Obviously, I keep my heels on every time, so I don't chase anyone on the streets, but I do the,
Mental chase.
the mental chase.
And this is going to be like one of those inside jokes because we recently went to Ma Mary's Vilagazi's celebration, and she says she's learned to take her lip gloss. And one of the advices on the day was just learn to take your lip gloss. Don't forget your femininity.
Yes.
Do you also pick your lip gloss when you show up?
And if I forget it, my daughter will remind me. I love it all the time.
I love it.
I think one other thing in terms of dress code, now that you've mentioned it, I found myself wearing very bright colors as a woman, and it's very intentional. You're in a boardroom.
Are you being rebellious? Okay.
I prefer being listened in many ways. I know I'm articulate. I know I can make my point out there, and sometimes I'm called militant. I understand. We'll talk about that. But sometimes showing up in presentation and how you present yourself, especially as a woman,
Yeah.
let the colors speak for you. Let the attire speak for you. So I don't forget to show up.
I love it.
Never. Yeah.
And do you find that given the scope or the job description that is credit risk and the skill set that's required to look into, I suppose, the risk before we can give the credit, do you find that that levels the playing field and somehow doesn't necessarily say I need to be macho, I need to show up in a certain way at committee, and therefore everyone has an equal chance?
I think, even in the broader economics field, a picture of an economist was never someone who looks like me.
Yeah.
And I would really struggle to say, how will I dress then? Because I don't want to be wearing a tie. I don't want to be growing just my hair around here and then cutting this middle part because all of them have a bald.
I'm only getting it now. Oh my goodness.
And, my skin is not fair enough and all of that. And over the years, you tend to find that it has evolved in terms of even the skin tone, right? We see now more Black men as well who are now economists. And, even when you look in our own country, having women who are economists as chief economists is also very far and few that you find. But I won't say the glass is half empty. I will say there is progress that's occurring, and perhaps because of how intense perhaps the economic field is, depending on where you are, because research is also very timeless. There are women who enjoy that because then it gives them flexibility of time. But us in the financial services, we still find ourselves being far in between. In my team, in my immediate team, I am the only female in my team. And even in my previous role, I was the only female, whereas when I was in government, there were more females than men. So you still see
yeah. But I'm not surprised if you look at the stats. Yeah.
All right.
Government is actually more inclusive.
Yeah.
In the sense that there's more representation or there's more, it's around 50-50, if not 45-55. It's around there. Whereas the private sector has been.
It has. I think it's moving, maybe very at snail pace. But also it's us as women saying, where are the opportunities in these financial sectors?
Yeah.
Because I do sense in the high stress roles, then you'll find less women because perhaps we want to nurture other parts of ourselves as community servants and family-oriented people. So it is perhaps a balance that few of us will choose the high intense pressured environment.
And can I also address the elephant in the room? Or try and be sneaky here? So there's an engagement I had with a female stalwart, and she was asking me, this was just a personal, and I was just like, oh, ma'am, I really love you. I was hyping myself up the whole day. Like, what am I going to say when I see you?
Yeah.
And then here you are, and I'm just like, and I don't know what to say. And then she's like, if anything, tell me that you are going to stick it out wherever you are.
Yeah.
She's like, we did not fight for you guys to be housewives.
Yes.
Because we are not done.
Yeah.
So when you say that, in your respective fields, you are one of, and in your previous job, I was the only one of, although it's a bit saddening, but what I enjoy about this conversation is just how you guys seem to have taken your power back.
Yeah.
So I don't see an FCC specialist that looks like me. So I'm going to define my own rules. I'm going to show up in a black and white dress and I'm going to walk into that boardroom and just be myself. I'm going to wear a pink top to work on a Friday.
Yes.
And I'm just going to show up as me, which I think is so beautiful.
Listen, when I joined the investment team, as you can tell, that I have a soft voice and very slow-paced conversation.
One of the things I like about you, by the way.
I was told that, no, you're in an investment environment. You need to be more aggressive. You need to sound like you're stern. We're talking numbers. Did I not try to be that person? Did I not struggle?
How tired were you?
Listen, I was exhausted.
It's exhausting.
And I was like, you know what? That's the day I was like, enough is enough. You guys are going to rise up to my grace. If not that, I'm not the one for you. You're not the one for me.
City, right?
Yeah.
Does.
Because also organizations will say, come as you are. And when you come as you are,
They're like, ma'am.
you're like, not this one. Because
that
you're
shape.
from Soweto, girl. Sister sentiment.
Right?
There's a predefined come as
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's Caroline Wanga, the CEO of Essence. So she always starts off with a nice story whenever she does her talks. And I've stalked her enough times now. Like, I really like her.
I love her too.
She's amazing. There's this story she shares about potato salad. And the funny story is that she's American, but potato story I could relate.
Yeah.
You know?
A couple of times talk about the potato story.
Yeah. So she says, if you walk into a room, how do you decide you're going to have a taste or you're going to that potato salad based on who made it?
Yes.
You're going to ask. So if you go to a wedding, especially Mikete, if you go to
Yeah.
a wedding and you come there and there's potato salad, you're going to ask first who made the potato salad.
Yeah.
And then all the people started laughing and she was like, no guys, it's a cultural thing, so work with me, I'll explain just now.
Getting there.
We're getting there. And then Batlore ke aus Mendi.
And then
And-
I'm saying,
Otla it's whole. How I was Khanyisa, you're like, yo, that lady ukenya sukiri in
None of-
potato salad. So she's like, and then you'd rather starve than dish yourself up potato salad, nyana, because you're like, I'm very picky about my potato salad. But where we're going with this is she says you're so picky about the potato salad and who made it and, but you're not as picky about where you work.
listen.
So can we be picky about where we work? Because who you are is who you are.
Right?
So can you go and look for a place of work that accepts you, that embraces the kind of person that you are with your skill, with your knowledge, is this kind of place that sees you, but embraces the who, so you can be the who you are, where you are.
As much as
I just want to hear what you guys think about that, because the first time I heard that video, it literally gave me goosebumps.
It
It
opened.
made me think
as
a
much
lot.
as you ought to align to the employer's norms, they need to align to yours as well.
Mm.
And we're not being stereotypical, but I mean, as a mother of three, there's so many things that I would like, so many principles I would like to fit into my family to make sure that I'm happy, my kids are happy too. So I'll tell you what I mean. I need to deliver, obviously, and I'm sure I'd like to believe I'm hardworking. I believe hard work really does pay.
Yeah.
So I'll give you my utmost best in terms of deliveries. However, I need you to fit into my principles. If my son goes to swimming at a certain time and as a result I need to be working from home or I need to leave early, you need to align and fit in. And that goes to you being able to choose what employment space works for you as well. And I'm saying this because of only one reason.
Mm.
If I'm happy, I'll show up.
Yeah.
And when I show up, I'll give you the best of me.
Yes.
So let's align. It's a tit for tat. Yeah.
I think for me is, let's not get away from the fact that Wanga speaks from a point of inspiring abundance. We live in an economy that does not support the movement, the free movement of wanting to go to a workplace that will certainly tick all your boxes,
Yeah.
right? But what I like about how she thinks is that if you are really compromised, your health is more, your wellness is more important than having to deliver something. Because, in fact, I say I'm a creative person, and most of my best work comes from a calm state. So I always say, when I speak to them, I always say, if they want high fashion, street fashion, I'll give them because I can.
Exactly.
Really?
But listen, top tier, high end producer. So if you want luxury,
Allow me the
if you
space.
want luxury, you
to
are
create.
going to allow me, and you're not going to stress me. So I always say, I don't say I can work well under pressure. I used to say it in my 13 years of work experience. I used to say I work well, but I realized that I was forcing myself to do things
Got you.
that, and then there were mistakes sometimes. And of course, yeah, sometimes you get into the habit of doing it, but it's not that you want to do it that way. So I always say, can we just do planning? Can we plan proper? Then
So we know
there's
what to
no
expect,
rush.
ne?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work like that in corporate. So I get that. But what Wanda says is really profound, because as soon as you can identify that this fit does not allow me to be my full self, meaning I can't serve at my best, I can't produce my best quality work, then you kind of need to start thinking about what would you be your next move and what that would look like for you.
Unapologetic.
Unapologetically. So
So now that we have experience, you take me, it's really
this
an
is
exchange.
this is
No,
why
it's an
this is what you
exchange.
bring.
You are giving me a platform to create this work that's going to make this organization thrive. And I'm feeling that, oh my gosh, you're giving me the opportunity to actually expand my mind,
Yeah.
expand my skill, and explore. So it's not necessarily that you're giving me a paycheck. It's really an exchange of skill, talent, opportunity, and resources.
Yeah. And I love that. And I think it's also one of the ways that we are forcing corporates to be more inclusive, more accepting, and we're changing the narrative. So whoever is coming in as a graduate, by the time they get to your level, you've sort of made a couple of things normal,
Yeah.
right? You know, there's kids to be fetched if you have children. And very nice topic. Now segue into the kids. How many kids do you have? And how many kids do you have? Do you have boys, girls, or do you just have girls?
Goodness, you're getting me so excited.
And I'll tell you why just now.
I've got 3 kids,
Uh-huh.
2 boys and a beautiful girl. Well, they're gorgeous.
Yes, I mean, look
Gorgeous.
at you, ma'am.
Have you met you?
Can you?
I have a set of twins, a boy and a girl.
Okay. And the reason I ask that, ladies, is because there's a feeling almost that we always harp on and on about women. So there's a Take a Girl Child to Work Day, there's International Women's Day, there is women empowerment, there is EE numbers, and this role, whenever you see it advertised, this role is for EE. And we are leaving the men behind. And as a mom who's raising a boy, you know, in the spaces that we are in and we operate in around our mandate at Women in Focus and our broader mandate in terms of what ABSIP is all about, are we creating an environment that is going to allow that to happen, where women are still empowered, but men are not, I'm not left behind? A wise woman once said that it's no longer about me, it's about me and. So, how are we empowering the kids, or how are we ensuring that in spaces that we are in and in spaces where we can drive a certain change, we can still empower women, but also that we can also give enough power to men so they know what to do with these empowered women? Because then you start getting these office politics and men start getting aggressive because they feel like they are being pushed out and which is
Excluded.
negative, right? Because we're trying to drive inclusion. It's counterintuitive and it's not gonna get us anywhere. So what are your thoughts about this truth bomb
You're triggering
that I just dropped? Because I'm a girl mom, so I also find myself like I don't really think about it.
Yeah.
But in my blended situation, my blended marriage, I have boys, so I've had to think about things very differently. You know, how are you
Sure.
thinking about
So
that?
when you started talking, the first thing that came to mind was there's this particular conference I once went to, and it was a transformation conference. It was so funny. The people, a majority of delegates there were Black male, Black female. Topic was transformation.
Mhm.
Guys, let's get to the base. Who needs to hear this? We're talking about transformation, yet the people
Amongst ourselves.
want to be exactly transforming are not here. And I mean, this takes me to then inclusion, where you talk about inclusion and men not being there. If we're going to say, and maybe let's go back to the base of why we're saying we're not included, really. We're not included because it goes way back, way back. We really did not start here. We did not get to where we are just by sitting around. There's been great women that came way before us that did some stellar job. So if I'm going to get into a room and talk to women about inclusion, I'm backing at the wrong tree.
Yeah.
And that is where you get the base. So when you have
love
a
that.
man come in
Yeah.
and say, why am I not included? First question I'll ask them is, what do you think we're trying to solve here? No, really, what's the narrative? In your own understanding, what do you think we're trying to solve here?
And what's usually the answer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, we're not included. You guys are just in your own corner, blah, blah. Against man, I mean, I've got boys. But the narrative here is that there's disparity, there's gender bias, there's inequality, and that's the problem we're trying to solve. Are you feeling like there's inequality when it comes to you? Well, no. When it comes to payment, do you think that you get more attraction in terms of the role that you need to be getting as
Yeah.
opposed to me? Oh, I never really have a problem. That's it. We're trying to solve for a problem here. And unfortunately for you, at this stage, the problem is not with you. The problem is around you because you are part of it, but I'm affected. Do you get it? So we need to teach. So
Okay.
speaking about
Okay.
teaching, 2 boys, a girl. And I think the other day they said something to my mom, and my mom had to sit me down. And I felt so bad when she said, you need to talk to them because they said they feel as though you're more tender with the girl as opposed to us. I said, okay, let's unpack it.
Interesting.
I love having panel discussions with my kids. That house, listen, literally, we have chats. And then they say, no. When you tell us not to do something, you are usually very soft with her and not. And I said, okay, why do you think that's the case, right? Well, you said we have attitude. Okay. Do you then agree that I would not deal with her the same way that I would deal with it? Do you then agree that the problem is here?
Yeah.
Yes. No, I understand. So the conversations we have really in my house is I involve them all the time. My daughter likes doing what the boys like doing. Which I love.
Yeah.
Do it. So in all conversations, she does pageant as well. So when she goes for her pageants, I include them so that they understand what femininity
Her world.
is,
Yes.
her world,
Yeah.
what she likes doing and all that. And I equally include her when they go for soccer matches. I include. So it's all about the
I love
conversation
that.
around it. But you need to know what the fundamental problem is, then deal with it.
So thank you for that, Lebo. I like how your answer was very colorful and multifaceted. You made me think about things I wasn't even thinking about. So maybe to ask it differently, for you, Kanye, I was very intentional because I was a girl mom before my blended family. I would be very intentional about which shops I go into with my little ones. So if we're buying clothes, I would literally say, just pick any item you like. I wouldn't be prescriptive. And if she's gravitating to the blues and the greens, I'll just let her be. So things like that, where I just felt like I shouldn't necessarily let the store tell me where I must buy the clothes. If she likes blue, then blue it is. How do you find that works out in your world? Because it's one of each. And I can imagine, just knowing you, they have very strong personalities.
Absolutely.
So how do you do it such that
Listen.
they're very much away?
I think I had to be woken up into my senses. So the work that I do in advancing women is very intentional because I had to do it for my daughter. She needed to see an example of a powerful woman in her midst. Yes, she's got grandmothers, but I think she needed to live what I was encouraging her to do. So having a twin brother for her meant my son is alpha male. He thinks
Through
he's the
and through.
best of everything. No one has taught him. In fact, even when we think about chores, he'll tell you, Mom, that's not my greatest point.
Wow.
Lisa will do it for me. In
She
his
will do
mind,
it for me.
it's not because it's a girl's thing to do, because his dad does things. He just knows it's not my great thing to do, so I'm not going to force myself to do it.
That.
Self-aware.
But
Yes.
and I see with my daughter, she's like, we all live here, so I'll take the responsibility. It's fine, Mama, I'll do it for him. And they also have like this whole twin relationship that
Yeah.
they're more scared of each other than they are of me and Dad.
What?
So they would rather be loyal to them. So, to each
So they
other,
have their own thing.
and then
And you guys are on
unless
your own.
they have their own tiff, and then you have to kind of come in. But the work that I do, it also helped me in my in my moments of losing confidence in my job, right? Because Oisa would always say to, but Mama, you're already doing this. You're brilliant. My son says it all the time. You're going to thrive, Mama. Just go do it. You're going to have the best podcast. Like he said today, he's like, okay, I know you're gonna do well. And also in hindsight, what I realized later on when they actually went to school and said, we Googled our mom in class.
Wow.
And I'm like, why would you do that? It's like, no, the other kids, their moms are not on social media. I'm like, so what did you find? Like, yo, Mama, yeah, you're doing a lot of work. Hey? And
Mama
for
is a
them, because
superhero.
they're always on social media, I suppose representation matters. That, okay, someone like me that's accessible can actually create stuff that other people will see in the world. So it's very intentional about letting him know that there are no gender roles. Everyone does everything in the house. And unfortunately, we have to force him. But he tells you, I don't like to do this, so I'm going to drag. And I have to be patient to say, oh, Kusalayo, you're going to wash your dishes at your own pace. Ukhala, ungakali, but
Yes.
but I'm not going to say don't do it because you don't like it, or don't do it because the girls will do it. It doesn't work like that. It's important for me that Oisa knows that she has to do much more, unfortunately, because we can't wait 130 years
No,
for equity to
too
be
long.
achieved, right? She'll be dead, I'll be dead. My great grandkids will probably also not be here yet. So we have to do as much as we can now so that they don't grow up with that limited belief to say, I can achieve things. We had a conversation with Jeanette, remember? She's like, I got my own boys. I don't think I can do stuff.
Yeah.
Because she adopted.
And how that framed
Yeah.
your thinking. I remember.
So she shows up as able for anything. And I think that's what we need to emphasize for young girls and for men as well, young boys, to know that no, we're not advancing girls because we want you to sit back and not have these opportunities. We're saying you already had a platform. Your forefathers had the platform. Now we're saying we can do it together. There's no longer, but we have to add more women into the picture because there's already enough, enough men to the story.
Absolutely. But also for me, it's if you check your demographics, I mean, there's more women, right?
Yeah.
So from a representation perspective, I would think if I walk into any space, I would see a lot more women than men, or people of color. I would think for Africans in Africa, in any room I walk into, I would see what the stats are telling me about the people in the country, and that's not it, right? So that's what I think about it. So nonetheless, ladies, thank you very much. I think we had a wonderful conversation. In wrapping it up, I think we've touched on what inclusion means for you, not even what, but how are you fostering an inclusive environment at home as well as at work. I like what you said about you really go head on with the men and ask them, but what is your problem in all of this? So we can talk about it, because sometimes it could be a teaching moment, right? People really don't know. And I like what you said about, in as much as there's this dynamic with the twins, the boy is very forthright, and that's his personality. And he tells you, Mama, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not good with this, but I can do that. And the girl will be like, no, I'm good, because you're also running a sense of community in the home, and it shows just of a warm home that you're building. So I think it's balanced, but also it touches on self-awareness, which is also important in how we foster and we build an inclusive environment all around. It doesn't even matter. It shouldn't necessarily even be a work thing. However, it tends to be, because we spend a lot more time at work than we do at home, right? So just your final thoughts and your final message, and I know it's going to be difficult. Yeah. So
Timing us.
I'm going to try, because I know you two. You need to give me 2 words, and you must build 1 sentence.
Wow.
2 words. When we say inspiring inclusion in line with International Women's Day, I'm just taking the whole month. I'm taking liberties here. 2 words. Think of yourself when you were 10 years old. what would you tell your 10-year-old self about inclusion, considering the conversation we had today? So 2 words, and then you just frame it nicely in very nice piece of advice for your 10-year-old self is the question, and we close out.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot, but you'll do it.
I don't like barriers.
Because we've been breaking barriers,
Says the regulator.
says the regulator.
Appliance officer.
Hey. 2 words. If I may, I'd actually like to circle back to the topic at hand. Inspire, inclusion,
Yeah.
right? A 10-year-old self, when you inspire still, make sure that it is an act, right? But I'd like to be a little bit controversial, if I may, right?
Go ahead, man. No barriers here.
Barriers, please. We need to, as women, I mean, we're still celebrating International Women's Day, and I'd like to believe that the entire month
Yes.
we'll be celebrating each other
Yeah.
in this aspect.
I love
right? The celebration should actually be a birthright. If I'm seen as a different person and therefore I'm not supposed to be sitting at a specific sit because it's meant for different men. Different people, which is men. Me celebrating myself on a daily basis is a birthright. I need to show you that I'm able to celebrate myself, and I'm very happy.
In spite of. Love it.
But,
Yeah.
but most importantly, women, if we're saying collectively we're inspiring and we're inclusive, can we be inclusive intentionally to ourselves? Let's introspect what this means to us as women. The problem here is not us. We can't be fighting amongst each other. There's a problem at hand. There's a lot of problems out there. And one of them is, of course, the men. Honestly. No, the privilege.
Elephant.
The privilege. I'll call it as it is. So if we're intentional about inspiring inclusion as women, let's make sure that we are not our own impediments. Let's make sure that we inspire each other and we move together, fix each other's crowns as we go along.
Love that. Thanks, Lebo. And you, Kanye?
I'll go back to my growth story and say investing in women does accelerate growth. There is evidence that shows that having women in the room, having women to solve problems, big problems, has actually made a difference, much bigger than what we want to actually accept about women. And also I just want to close it off to say, walking in purpose, being God aligned to your dream, to your purpose, why you are here, makes it effortless for us to be in the kind of roles that we do, to be able to serve as volunteers in the organizations that we do. It's not because we are bored, we have families, but we know that this cause of advancing women, advancing previously disadvantaged individuals who are professional and able to upskill themselves to be able to be self-sustaining but also pay it forward, makes it more worthwhile. So we want to bring the light. We want to be the example of what is possible through mentorship, through the programs that we do at AWIF and ABSIP at large. But it's mainly to say, yes, we are advancing women because unfortunately, when they look at the woman, they're like, what else can you do?
Yeah.
What do you have? And I think our crux is that there must be no excuse. When they look at your accolades, they must say, yeah, she's got the training. Bring her in.
Done.
And pay her.
What she's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Ladies, it's been absolutely amazing. Thank you, as usual, for confirming that you were the right people for this job. Happy International Women's Day. Continue inspiring inclusion. Continue being the light. Khanyisa. Continue being the light in any space that you are in. I think the work that you do is so much more, or rather, is so important and so much more than just a gender thing. because we always just want to take it down to gender, whereas no, we're just trying to change the environment, because then that's when real change happens. And to everyone, thanks for joining us, and happy International Women's Day.